How you doing, Robert?
All right.
Good. Tired.
Not really.
Good pictures of you and your wife and daughter.
No, thank you.
The longest minute. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Supervisors meeting on May 8th. It's 9 o'clock, and can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Supervisor Jerry Munzer.
Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Supervisor Munzer. Can I have a motion for a certificate of posting?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. We'll move on to presentations and recognitions. Behavioral Health Department proclaiming the proclamation recognizing May as 2018 as Mental Health Month in San Bernardino County. Supervisor Munzer?
Mr. Chair, do you need a vote on these?
Yeah, we probably should.
Okay, I move to approve both proclamations.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Thank you.
I just want it to be known that for the second year in a row, I remember my green tie that the department gave us 3 years ago for this date. With that, I'd like to read this proclamation. It's not too long. So, whereas about 1 in every 5 U.S. adults, or more than 43 million people, experience mental illness in a given year, mental illness is associated with billions of dollars in care and lost productivity each year. And whereas the symptoms of mental health can be managed or eliminated through early intervention or comprehensive treatment services and intervention. And whereas we must eliminate the social disparity that exists in social willingness to equally accept mental illness in the same manner as physical ailment, allowing individuals to freely step forward and access the support and services that lead to hope and recovery. And whereas the month of May is annually recognized nationally and throughout our state as Mental Health Month in celebration of the effort to eliminate social stigma attached to mental illness and to provide hope and recovery. Now therefore be it resolved that the San Bernardino County Board of Supervisors, in recognition of this importance of eliminating the social stigma attached to individual experiencing mental health and in embracing of the concept that individual who experience mental illness can recover, do hereby resolve that the month of May 2018 is Mental Health Month in the County of San Benito.
Thank you very much. Just a few quick words for you. First of all, I'd like to thank the board for spending this time with us today and recognizing this proclamation. It's an important event for us, and I think the event itself signifies something that's very important for this community. Just a quick explanation on the green tie issue. That green tie signifies the statewide movement for Every Mind Matters, and it's part of the anti-stigma against the stigma about mental illness. And these events require a lot of work putting the details together. This year we're integrating our events with the stakeholder input actions related to our Mental Health Service Act plan. And I brought Maria Sanchez with me today, who's with our staff. She's one of our managers. And these events require a great deal of completion of detail, attention to detail. And Maria has assured that all of those things get taken care of in so many areas. So I want to recognize her for that, and then also allow her to have a few minutes of your time to talk about our events.
Great, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just want to share a little bit about what we're doing to celebrate May's Mental Health Month. This year we scheduled 2 events at the Farmers Market, and we had our first one last week, which was very successful. And what we're doing is we're surveying the community to assess mental health needs. The next event is scheduled next Wednesday. We hired a mariachi band to attract a little bit more of a crowd and hopefully get more feedback from the community. The booth is manned by our case management staff as well as our LGBTQ group. And we invite you to stop by and take a look. The case managers did an excellent job in putting together the booth, and we're hoping we can get some feedback that will include in our update of the May's, our Mental Health Services Act plan that we will be submitting. So,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you very much. And the green tie does look good on you, Supervisor Munzer. Matches your suit and your personality. We'll move on to the second presentation. Supervisor De La Cruz.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
This is a proclamation recognizing May 20th to May 26th as 2018 as National Public Works Week in San Bernardino County.
John, are the members of the back, are they here for this presentation?
They are.
I need them to come up to the front.
Come on, guys.
Come on, guys. Come on.
Come on, guys.
I promised him I wouldn't do this to him.
How you doing, Jaime?
How are you? How are you? Thank you. This is the face of what keeps our county clean. And that's why I wanted you guys to come up here, because we appreciate the hard work that you guys do. Every day we see you guys out there, we're driving around, we're having meetings, and you guys are out there working hard to keep our community clean. And I personally want to say thank you. And that's why I wanted to recognize you guys personally and say thank you very much. And I want to shake your hands, every one of you guys. Thank you. John? Whereas public works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as water, sewers, streets, and highways, public works, and development review, and whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff Public Works Department is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understandings of the importance of the work they perform, and that's you guys. Now, therefore, let it be resolved and proclaim that the San Bernardino County Board of Supervisors do hereby recognize week May 20th to the 26th, 2018 as National Public Works Week. Thank you, guys.
Come on, guys. Good job, Jason. Go ahead and have a seat there.
Thank you, Supervisor De La Cruz. I really appreciate the acknowledgement that you gave to the staff who are out there every day. They're out there in the rain, they're out there in the heat, and they're usually up against a lot of different challenges in terms of responding to emergencies and keeping the roads functioning, and they're out there every day. Every day there's something coming up that they have to do. As long as there's been civilization and governance to manage that civilization, there's been public works at the core of that government structure. It's probably the oldest profession in government, and these are the folks who keep it going for us, and so this is really just our time to recognize them and all of the work that they do.
Yeah, John, I think that was well said, and, I think we have a couple other comments before you guys go from this board, and I appreciate the comments from Supervisor De La Cruz, but we certainly, Supervisor Munzer, you have any words?
Thank you,
I know
Mr.
I
Chair.
do.
Guys, I don't know, you probably have heard how Supervisor Botello and I fight over you at almost every meeting. because you guys are so important to our districts and maintaining the roads, and we appreciate it. It's a never-ending battle, underfunded, undermanned, but we certainly do appreciate your hard work. As John said, you guys are out there working hard, and we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Supervisor Medina, you have words of wisdom?
No, I just want to take this time to thank everyone, especially, I think it was the 21st of April. There was a stop sign that was knocked down, and I had called Mr. Girton to explain to him what was happening. By the time I got off the phone, Jason called me immediately and said, "Oh, I already have that taken care of." So it just shows that they're on it. They understand the importance of customer service. So really recognizing them today is great, but we need to recognize them every day. And I appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you.
Supervisor Rivas?
Yeah, if I could just add a little something. Certainly the work you guys do is exceptional, and it's extremely important. And I say that because we're a rural county, and we're relatively larger than most other counties, but we're dramatically understaffed for the work you guys do with the miles of roads that you guys have to maintain and all the upkeep that's involved. So certainly if it's one job in this county that deserves, recognition, all days of the year, it's our Public Works Department. So thank you for everything you guys do, and certainly we'll do our part to make sure that we're working with Mr. Girton to get you guys the resources and the staff members you need to be successful. So thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to say this is a group of men and women and that I'm really proud of. There's not too many Grange breakfasts I go to in Aromas. I hear comments in San Juan and elsewhere. What a good job you guys are doing out there. People see you're working hard, and it's for the community. It's about public safety. It's about protecting our, public assets. And thank you very much. And I wish this was a whole month rather than just a week, but don't think that we're not thinking about you guys out there, too. Thanks. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And you bring up a good point. Public Works is public safety. Public safety all stems from the work that these folks do. And then real quick before I sit down, Patrick Dobbins was nice enough to come here today. He's representing APWA. He's with Harris and Associates as well, and he's here to make a presentation of a poster for us.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, John. Good morning, supervisors. I'm Patrick Dobbins, as John said, board member of the APWA Monterey Bay chapter that covers San Benito, Santa Cruz, and Monterey Bay counties. We meet every other month. We have about 200 members, and we actually hold our awards ceremony at San Juan Oaks Golf Course in January of each year. A wonderful venue, as you well know. Brought our APWA poster for John to hang in the Public Works office. You hit it, and definitely this is the backbone of who takes care of your buildings, roads, water systems, wastewater systems, things of that nature. APWA has 30,000 members across the United States. We offer training, networking, and other events, including young professionals. So it is, the Public Works field personnel, consultants, contractors, and agency staff. Thanks again for the proclamation.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to public comment. Do we have any speaker cards?
I have no speaker cards.
At this time, would anyone address the board, would like to address the board on items not on today's agenda? Seeing none, I'll close public comment and move on to department head announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, we do have a few announcements this morning. I have an announcement out of our county clerk, auditor, recorder's office. I have Joe Paul Gonzalez here.
Good morning, Chair, Board of Supervisors, Joe Paul Gonzalez, County Clerk, Auditor, and Recorder, and Register of Voters. And today I wanted to announce that yesterday was the beginning of early voting. We are set up on 445th Street, the second floor there, to have voters come in and if need be, they can vote early. This is for people who know they're going to go on vacation, or or they're not going to be in town, and don't want to risk not having their vote count. They can come into the office from 8 to 5 every day up to Election Day. And Election Day, we're actually open at 7 a.m. and we're closed at 8 p.m. At the election office. The weekend before, we're going to have early voting, which is on June 2nd and 3rd, and that begins from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So really, there's no reason for people who are eligible to vote to not vote. And we sure encourage people to come on in and vote early. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have another announcement out of our county counsel's office.
Item number 25 is going to be pulled from the agenda.
Okay.
And another announcement out of our clerk of the board. I have Janet Slutzbager here to quickly give an announcement.
Yes, board and the public, I'm happy to announce that we have a new employee in the clerk of the board's office, and it's Lauren Hull. This is her 3rd week, and she's doing a great job, and it's so nice to have some help. And we appreciate it. Would you like to say something?
Hi, I'm Lauren. I am very excited to be here and grateful for the opportunity to serve the county and our local community. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you. So thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to working with you, and best of luck in your career here. And you can't have a better mentor. Thank you.
That's all the announcements, Mr. Chair.
All right. We'll move on to board announcements. Supervisor Rivas?
I'm not, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Munzer?
Nothing this week.
Supervisor Medina?
Nothing, sir.
Supervisor De La Cruz?
Yes, just we had our COG meeting, and the discussion of doing a 1% sales tax for our local roads and Highway 25 is still ongoing. Well, that's about it, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, and I attended an RCRC meeting a couple weeks ago up in Humboldt. Very enjoyable drive up there, quite a ways. And we did take, the board did take an action and position on a couple of items. First was to, we took, let me get my glasses here. An action to, support SB 1, in which we oppose the repeal. And, pretty much rural counties, we're all in the same situation as far as with our roads. SB 1 is absolutely vital to the state as far as addressing, road maintenance and congestion. This county needs it. It's vital. And fortunately, RCRC stuck with its position in supporting that tax. We need it, and we're support the opposition against repealing it, right? Something along those lines. We also supported Prop 69, which is motor vehicles, fees, and taxes, and what that does is secure SB 1 monies into transportation, so that those monies stay in transportation, and so that's the assurances that the public will have that these transportation dollars stay right there. And another bill that we supported, which was a little harder for me, but was the SB 623, which I think we have a letter of support in consent today, but RCRC also supported this bill, which has to do with water quality protection and revenue. So that's what we had, and I had the opportunity to tour a marijuana manufacturing business, see what they were doing up there in Humboldt. Very interesting tour, and what amazed me was that the facility had no smell at all. I know that's a big concern for a lot of us here, as we move forward with our tax in June, and if that passes, if we're doing ordinance, that is a concern for a lot of our residents, is the nuisances of that the industry can have. But if done right, it may be fine. And took a tour of an ice cream factory, which was real good. The sampling was wonderful. So with that, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Any board members who would like to pull any of the items?
21.
21. Any others? Would the public like to pull any items? I'll abstain from 24 and call for a motion to the amended consent agenda.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Supervisor Medina, 21.
Yes, this is an expense of approximately $405,024, and this is at the RMA department. Some of it is for the 2017-2018 year. Some of it pays off 16, 17, $85,526 for outstanding invoices. My question there is, and without getting into too much detail, but how did we not pay $85,526? Do they invoice us direct? And what happened there? Something has the process isn't working correctly.
Right. So this was all before I got here, but I'll try to piece it together for you because I've been trying to figure it out myself. This all occurred at a time of, you all know better than I do, the transition that was happening in the RMA at the time, and with significant staff turnover, all happening at one time, especially at the management and executive levels. And then the CAO's office had to step in and help the department with management, day-to-day management. And so it was really kind of an emergency situation where the CAO's office was bringing contract staff in to fill the holes as quickly as possible to keep things from falling apart. And so, when you move fast, sometimes you don't dot all the I's and cross all the T's, and this was one of those circumstances where in order to be expedient and get folks in quickly, contracts were done quickly and the proper amounts. There was no way for them to foresee that Four Leaf was going to be on board for so long, and so the contracts didn't have sufficient funding in them at the time, and then they just slipped through the cracks and didn't get amended in time for us to be able to pay the invoices. There was some miscommunication between the admin staff who were left and the contractors. So it was just really a whole series of events that led to things falling through the crack for a long time. And once it was brought to our attention, Scott and the admin staff got on it quickly, worked with Ray's office, and got it all ironed out.
Okay, so it's a teachable point of view. What are we going to do in the future to prevent this from happening? And we can't have this. So I want to make sure there's some type of a process or control in place that you have, and you are accountable for this success in the future.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what we're working on. This is kind of thing that can't happen. This is the kind of thing that can really put a county in trouble. Not only that, it doesn't foster goodwill with our vendors if we're not paying them in a timely manner, or we're asking them to do work outside of a contract, because realistically we're not obligated to pay them for that legally. Obviously, ethically, we're required to pay them for any work we ask them to do outside of a contract. They shouldn't be working outside of contracts, but they do because they recognize some of the struggles that we've had, and they want to help keep us going, especially Four Leaf. Four Leaf took a great risk doing this for us and continuing to provide services, knowing the situation that we were in, even though they were outside of a contract. But now, I've never actually officially introduced Scott to you, but Scott Lyons is our newest Administrative Services Manager. I've been sparing him having to be embarrassed, but since we embarrassed the rest of the Public Works team, we might as well introduce him officially now. He comes with a lot of experience in contract management and finance at different agencies, and he and I and his staff are coming up with those policies and procedures that you mentioned to make sure that we track our contracts effectively, that we keep them under the not-to-exceed amount, and more importantly, that when we need to, we extend them in a timely manner and we don't go outside of the contract parameters.
And so the remainder, of course, is the $144,593. That's an estimate. But after that, are we completely done with Four Leaf, or are they going to be providing us other services in the future? I kind of unclear on that. I want to make sure I have a clear picture of what they will be doing in the future.
Right. So it doesn't necessarily mean that Four Leaf will be providing the services, but right now, one specific service that we will be contracting for the foreseeable future is plan review, because that's one that kind of ebbs and flows, and we don't really have enough for a full-time staff person for that. So that's a service that we'll be contracting out with somebody. Right now it's Four Leaf. Doesn't mean that it'll continue with Four Leaf. But like I said, in the emergent situation that was created last year in the RMA, Four Leaf's contract really expanded quickly, and we provided a lot of staffing through Four Leaf. That's now since shrunk, and it's back to just the building official and the plan check and occasionally public works inspection.
So when they do the plan checks, that's based upon a certain instance, correct? It's not...
Right. Yeah, that's to review plans for developments and things like that. And,
Perfect. Thank you
and
very
there's a
much.
fee for that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair. Supervisor De La Cruz?
Yeah, thank you. John, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the contracts that we sign with vendors, there is a provision that says that timing is of importance. They have to submit their invoices within 30, 60, 90 days, and if they don't do that, they miss out on getting claims. Is that true or not?
That is true, yeah.
Okay, so
yeah.
this is beyond the 90 days, I imagine, or 60 days or 30 days, whatever that time frame is.
Yeah, and this isn't on the contractor in this situation. This is entirely on us. There was confusion with them on who to send the invoices to because they're working with the CAO's office in some cases, working with us in some cases, working with county council in some cases. And so invoices were going all over and nobody knew what to do with them.
The next question following to my laps, and I got to say it, you're going to get Four Leaf to help you sort the administrative process paperwork, but yet they're the ones that somehow didn't get it right with your guys' assistance. So it's like the fox, taking care of the chickens. I just want to make sure that we got the right team on board, and we're not going to create an environment in which timing and contracts will continue to be an issue, because it's just like, was it 13, 14 years that Supervisor Batal and I've been. I remember even the first agenda item was something about approving a retroactive activity. So somehow we got to be on the ball on this. We got to make sure that when contracts are that time frame, reimbursements are made, costs are submitted, invoices and all that stuff, and then don't come back to us, a couple months later, say, please give an extension. The work's already done. And so we need to stop this, John.
Right. I completely agree.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Espinoza?
Yeah.
CEO.
No problem. So there has been a lot of internal conversations on how to address this issue. And one of the issues, or one of the items that we've looked at, is utilizing our timesheets and actually hitting the accounts and hitting the funds and generating invoices, those types of things. So we've been talking about that internally because what's happened is it's hard to remember a year ago or 6 months ago what you did. And that goes with anyone, myself included, or contractors. So what we want to do is implement some new policies, as John had mentioned, but also to actually hit those accounts and address them at that time during that 2-week period. So that way we're on top of things, and then we have an accurate accounting of what has happened, and time included in funding and everything else. So we're looking at that, and we're going to try to implement that with the auditor staff and as well as RMA and other departments as well.
Yeah, I would think with the implementation of that ERP system would help us with this as well.
That the timesheets would actually it's all tied together with the ERP system. So that's the beauty of having a centralized database and having all of the outside tools that we have. So the timesheets is the timesheets online that is a part of the ERP system. So we would actually be incorporating the time, whatever it may be, a project, whatever it may be, and then it would actually hit those funds, or in some cases, we still need to look at that, possibly generating invoices and other things we need to look at. So we got to put some sort of tools and mechanisms in place, and that was the first place I've looked at to account for time for individuals that I think might benefit us. So, yes, it is to answer your question.
Yeah. And you'll recall that the auditor's office also was supporting RMA during that time, and we had an auditor staff actually in RMA working with us and helping us, and so that's been a discussion with Joe Paul's group on how to better implement electronic strategies that help us streamline our work and keep us on track with things. So we appreciate that help.
Supervisor Mendito?
I'm in one of those moods today. I know we talk about policy, procedure. We talk about it. It's common in any business. But do we have a time frame on when we will see something in a draft form that has these policies and procedures set in place? So 6 months to a year, we're not up here talking about the same issues?
6 months is good. It'll be before that, but 6 months is a good commitment. We already have things that we've put in place. We've just recently put in a new cash handling policy and some other policies since Scott's been here. He's been taking the lead on that, and he's really been moving on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from public? If not, semi-public.
As your county auditor controller, I just wanted to let you know is that invoices came in, but we will not pay invoices without a contract. And so, with the board's action today, authorize that payment. And so now that payment will go out. But without your authority, there will be no payments to vendors.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for an action.
Move for staff recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, we'll move on to a regular agenda. We'll move right to item 26, Long-Term Care Commission. CAO? Thank you.
Well, after that lighthearted conversation, we're going to move into something even deeper.
It gets better later.
My name is Mitch Matthews. I'm the current chairperson of the Aging and Long-Term Care Commission. I'm here with some of my fellow members here, Clay Kemp, Pauline Valverde, and Patsy Pence here. And our role here as the San Benito County Long-Term Care Commission is to both highlight issues that are important to our aging community, but also find ways in which we can collaborate and make the best utility out of the leaders of the organization we represent. Clay Kemp over here represents the Seniors Council. Pauline Valverde represents the Jovenes de Antonio, Patsy Pence, and the Ombudsman. And I'm with Health Project Center, which is we provide caregiver support and care management for aging seniors and the poor. So what we are wanting to do today as a commission is to inform you of some of the critical issues we see on a statewide ballot issues and budget augmentations, things that you should be aware of And we urge you to support these issues. So you should have received a packet here. Thank you, Janet, for distributing that for me on some of the issues. So you can follow along here, and I'll just highlight some of the issues that are important to our aging community that we feel that will keep them stable and in their home and healthy and as independent as possible, which is our goal for coordinating these resources here. So what you have in front of you is the California legislative priorities that we see from the Long-Term Care Commission as that we're urging your support and your constituents. So follow along with me as I'll just go through some of the highlights. Under the budget augmentations, we have the Senior Nutrition Program, which affects programs like Hope in San Antonio. So we're asking for $17 million for and ongoing general fund support to increase funding for senior nutrition programs because the health of seniors is directly correlated with the quality of nutrition they get. So about 450,000 of these meals would be lost if flat funding continued here. And so a total of 12,500 additional people would be served if this $17 million is approved, and that's based on these people receiving 3 additional meals a week. So that you can see that $17 million will go a long way in helping a lot more people. And if the funding is continued flat because of the cost of living increase, there will be 1,200 fewer seniors served every day. I'll move on to the Ombudsman here. We have Patsy here who represents us. The Ombudsman, if you didn't know, they are the people that sort of monitor the skilled nursing facilities and assisted living to make sure that they are providing quality care and they're doing everything within the legal vehicles they have the guidelines to work with here and taking care of individual complaints. These people do heroic work on any given day with next to nothing. So this is a nominal additional $7.3 million for the general fund to support this for the ongoing volunteer training and also the recruitment, as they need constant recruitment to keep these people monitoring the facilities. And then also there's costs associated with complaints. So when somebody has a complaint, which you will hear this all the time of, these people are not taking care of my mother. These are the people that investigate that. Is this somebody who's just generally unhappy, or is there a real serious violation here? And it's up to the people on the Ombudsman to find this out. So we urge you to support that as well. Moving on to the next page, the MSSP rate increase, and I'll fully disclose that that's one of the programs that we run. It covers Monterey and San Benito County. This is also a very flat-funded program. It's been flat-funded for 12 years. And they're looking for a rate increase of a nominal $4.7 million to the general fund. And this provides care managed for people via social services and nursing support to keep them in their home as long as possible, as opposed to being placed in a nursing facility, by the way. So a small rate adjustment because there hasn't been a cost of living adjustment for reimbursement in over 12 years. So the goal is to increase it a 25% increase rather than the 36% if it had been adjusted for the cost of living. So we're looking for a rate increase for that, support for that. Moving on to the legislative bills, you're starting to see more of the public awareness for Alzheimer's disease, and it affects all of what we deal with the aging community. The Alzheimer's disease is an incredibly destructive disease. I don't know if anybody saw the Sunday morning show, if you ever watched this here, it's just last Sunday. This heroic couple that was highlighted in there, and their 10-year journey from a diagnosis till the woman was placed, but remarkable. So it really does have a tremendous effect on every community in our state and everywhere else. And this bill, the AB 1955, is a bill that basically brings more public awareness to Alzheimer's disease. Some of the resources that are available, what you can do in the early stages here, how to prepare for it, what you should have in your own place. So you should have your own advance directives and things in order, by the way, if you don't. So we're supporting that. The assisted living waiver, which is the next legislative bills that I'm a passionate supporter of and have been for many years, as many of my colleagues will attest to. This is a program where the AB 2233 bill is aimed at expanding the assisted living waiver. This is a Medi-Cal funding vehicle where Medi-Cal will help pay for the beds in an assisted living facility, similarly like they will for a skilled nursing facility. The problem with skilled nursing facilities is they're literally running out of beds. There haven't been skilled nursing facilities built in California in over 20 years because the reimbursement isn't really there. The biggest supplier of skilled nursing homes in the United States, Kindred, just recently sold all their facilities because they can't make it. And this is the largest industry, the largest provider of skilled nursing facilities in the country. So that gives you an idea. The assisted living waiver helps address that by having a reimbursement for the assisted living facilities for people that are able to live in that environment, say with early stage dementia, maybe recovering from a stroke, are needing some help, but not the level of a skilled nursing facility where you have round-the-clock nurses on that. So this expands that program where it increases the amount of beds available and rooms for folks, as well as pushing to have this as a statewide function. Right now, it's only in 17 counties when it is at real risk of losing that capacity at all. But now it's gaining traction, so there's real traction for this program to be expanded. And it would really provide relief for the skilled nursing facilities and really dignified way for people to live in a supportive manner. Definitely encourage you to support that. I'll just go through a couple more of these here, and then I'll close this out. Elder abuse is something that 1 in 5 people, it happens to 1 in 5 elders in our country. It's really devastating for the abuse that happens for these folks. This bill is very focused on trying to minimize how people could be abused by shaming. So this is a lot of things like you would think of in cyberbullying kind of effect, or they would make somebody feel guilty like they have being taken advantage of, and really they're being manipulated by a shaming technique. So this is a bill very specifically addressing being able to prosecute people for shaming elders in a potential elder abuse case. Interesting sort of law and way to deal with that. I'm going to just skip over the next two because I'm not briefed in the AB 2430 and the AB 320 as well as I could regarding those two bills. But the last one on the bill I will put is under fall prevention. And this is basically a bill to promote developing information so people so they can take advantage of some of the things that are out there to keep them from falling, adding extra grab bars in their home, knowing what sort of issues in their home is dangerous. Because if the elderly fall, it starts a spiral where these people, they go into demise very, very quickly. If you break a hip and fall, it's a very long, costly process that people generally don't recover from. So this is good stuff for basically next to nothing. The last thing in your packet is coming up is through the San Bernardino County Health and Human Service Agency. They are helping host this Scam Alert, Senior Scam Alert on June 4th at Hazel Hawkins from 2 to 3:30. This is a couple of lawyers that have come from, I think they're coming from Santa Barbara. They are coming up and they're doing this for minimal cost and really highlighting some of the scams that are out there, and there's lots of them. But this is a really good vehicle for communicating with people of what they need to be aware of that are potential scams, and there's tons of them, and I'm sure you've seen many of them. So those are the highlights from the Long-Term Care Commission that we would like you to be aware of and help support, and thank you for all the work you do for our community.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions from the Board of Supervisors? Any questions from the public? Well, thank you very much for the work that you do in this. Really vital to our community. We have a increase in our aging population, and that makes this work a whole lot more important. And we'll look into these bills as far as how we'll support you on this.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 27.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, these two items are kind of go hand in hand. So I'd like to invite Kim Stone. She's our lobbyist in California, or for us at the state in California. And she's going to provide as well an update concerning bills and kind of what's happening at the state level right now. Kim?
All right, thanks. Glad to be here. Good morning, Ray, and good morning, board members. First of all, I want to thank you for passing the consent calendar, because the 3 items that I wanted to ask you to consider were all on that. But I would like to just take a step back and go over them briefly, address them, and then answer any questions that might come up about them. The first was item number 13, which is the water issue that Chair Botello mentioned that the Rural Counties Caucus was also in support of. What it is there's an item that may end up in the state budget, and when items go through the state budget, it's different than having a bill, a separate individual bill. It's part of the whole budget process. And if this item stays in the budget process, it will add a small fee to the users of drinking water in order to create a fund that will then be used to clean up drinking water sources that may have been contaminated by agricultural pesticides. And this is a plan that is supported both by agricultural interests and by environmental interests, and oftentimes those two sides don't agree on pretty much like what day of the week it is. And so the fact that they have come together for this fund, and this is the kind of fund that if it came to, because San Benito County has areas where there are known pollutants, we would be eligible to apply for these funds to clean up the water area, and that would benefit both members of this county and then everybody in the state who wants clean, safe drinking water. So it's a good idea, and I'm really glad that the board has decided to support it. And I'll work with Ray and Dulce to communicate your support up in Sacramento and to advocate that this stays in the budget.
Yeah, and just one of the reasons I ended up supporting this at RCRC and even today was San Juan Bautista has had in recent history some real problems with their drinking water and nitrates to the point where there was health warnings put out throughout the entire mission town, and they were asked not to drink the water. Water was made available to families in need, and this may provide some funding for future remedies to prevent that from happening. So keep us informed if we could kind of take advantage of this.
Yeah, we'll do. We'll try. The May budget revise will come out probably at the end of this week, at latest case at the beginning of next week. Hopefully this item will still be in there, and then we'll advocate to continue to keep it in there. So thank you very much. The next item that I wanted to discuss was item 14, which is regarding taking an opposed unless amended position on Assembly Bill 1964. This is about adding, so this would add to the county health department's obligations to oversee day camps for children as well as overnight camps for children without providing any additional funding for those additional resources. And the CSAC has pointed out that the health organization's area of expertise is health issues, health and safety issues, is not building codes, is not licensed child care providers. And if we impose these additional oversight requirements on our local health departments without providing any additional funding for them, that's a burden that the county has got to absorb somehow. The requiring individual counties to oversee all non-residential day camps, non-overnight day camps, as well as overnight day camps will mean that the local health department is the only oversight and regulatory body of those camps, and that the health department would have to oversee things like their number of supervisors they have for children, whether their buildings are appropriate, as well as areas that are more in line with their expertise, like health and safety issues. And so what you all decided to do today was join the counties and the rural counties in having an opposed unless amended position on that bill, urging them to require the health departments to do what health departments do, which is oversee health and safety issues, but don't make them do what like building departments and other state departments would be better served to do. So I thank you for that, and we'll work with those representatives up in Sacramento to try to make that happen. And then the last item was item number 15, which is about joint JPAs and joint and several liability. So this is what happened. There was a Joint Powers Association in Los Angeles that went under. And when they sort of went under and broke up, there were like 200 employees that, or people who had had their pension involved with that Joint Powers Association, and that pension wasn't sufficiently funded because the JPA disbanded and wasn't there anymore. And so, in response to that, this bill, in a not unworthwhile effort to try to protect people's pensions, is saying, okay, when you create a Joint Powers Association, everybody who creates it, anybody could be fully liable for the pension obligations of all of the people. Well, the problem is if you're already in a JPA and you didn't create it that way, joint and several liability means if you're one member of it, you could potentially be 100% liable for all of the pension obligations. It's not proportionate liability, and this wasn't what you signed up for when you joined into that Joint Powers Association. After that problem in Los Angeles, the state auditor said, well, maybe going forward, if there's new JPAs, we should think about this problem before it happens and say we're going to create maybe proportional liability for the folks that are doing it. But what this bill would do is go back to existing joint powers authorities and associations and create an obligation that you all didn't realize that you signed up for that could be quite financially strong. And so all the counties through CSAC are opposing this bill, and I think that's a smart financial move for your county to do as well.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Okay.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
you, Kim. We'll move on to item 28.
Yeah, thank you, Kim. Appreciate you coming down. Yeah, I'd like to invite John Gerton, our RMA director, up. This particular item is to discuss CSG consultants and just to kind of go over, maybe just highlight a couple of the things that they've done, and then to request your board to extend their contract. John Gerton.
Yeah, so I'm glad to know that I can get to come up here to take the heat off of the other presenters when they come up here. So now I know what my role is. So
about you.
Getting thick skin. So this is another contract. This is, in my opinion, one of the times that we've gotten it right with a contract. We're actually coming to you before the contract expires to amend it and then to extend it as well. You all know better than I do, again, what was going on a year ago with the transition. CSG, like Four Leaf, was one of the consultants brought on to help with the transition, specifically in the Integrated Waste Management Division. They've been instrumental in keeping that division afloat and keeping me sane and from not running from my office on a daily basis, screaming and pulling my hair out. So what they've accomplished for us over the last year and a half really has been to stabilize that organization and the services provided through that division. With the transition of staff, they've been the management team that have run that division, brought in new staff, are training that staff. They've been instrumental on leading the franchise agreement, RFP, and now the negotiations. And so this contract again, when things happen in an emergency, you can't anticipate everything. So the amendment that's before you for the current contract is just amending for services that were provided that weren't foreseen, with additional, like staffing the ad hoc committee and advising the ad hoc committee going forward. There were a number of meetings that the consultants attended that weren't part of the original contract. So the amendment takes care of that and helps get us through the fiscal year. And then I think, as Supervisor Medina brought up earlier, the contract extension is more thoughtful and actually has a strategy for how we're going to transition out of this contract to full-time staff who manage the division, and that's a critical part of this contract amendment. It kind of weans us off of their services and their expertise as we build that expertise through them with the staff that we're bringing in to provide these services to the community. So going forward, this is critical. This is critical for me and my sanity. This is critical for the services that we provide to the community. And it's critical to the staff who we're going to be bringing in so that we can set them up for success going forward. So with that, if there's any questions.
Any questions? Supervisor Medina?
Got a lot of them.
Crack.
I've got a lot of them.
Okay.
First of all, I want to reiterate what you said to make sure that I heard right. We will transition to a full-time position within our county.
Yes.
And what is the time frame on that? 2 years? 3 years?
So the contract is at the same level through this calendar year, and then in December, and then January of the next calendar year is when we'll start to trim the services from them and start to pull back. Hopefully we'll have the staff in place. We have one staff now, Hannah Francis, who's doing a great job and learning a lot, and we'll have another staff member as well, and we can start that transition plan so that they can take over the day-to-day management operations.
So I like that. I do compliment you on having the plan. That's the biggest thing. The second question I have is, of the contract itself, what percentage of that is county and what percent of that is city?
I don't know percentages, but I do know costs. So for the going forward, of the $312,900, $139,975 of that is county cost.
And the remainder is the city of Hollister?
Is reimbursable, yeah.
So have we met with the city and the county to discuss this also, being that they're paying the biggest burden of this?
Yeah, it's part of the contract that we already have with them, so they're aware of this.
So they agree with us using them for the next year?
Yes.
There was a vote and everybody agreed with it?
I don't know that there was a vote, but
Yeah, it was a conversation.
We'll do this at the podium, please.
Good morning, Chair and Supervisors. Thank you, Supervisor Medina. To clarify, the reimbursement is 67%. So City of Hollister and San Juan Bautista reimburse 67%. So what we have done in past years is, per the cost-sharing agreement that was approved in 2006, the Hollister as well as San Juan Bautista are invoiced. This has been an ongoing procedure that we have done. I've talked to Bill Avera about it. I've talked to the city manager about it. It's something that we have procedurally completed for some time.
So they're happy with your services? I mean, we know that. That's all I'm asking is, since they're paying 67% of it, I think we should have a collective agreement on this rather than just us signing a check over, and maybe they're not happy with the services. Maybe there could be an RFP out for this. There can be something different. That's all I'm trying to look at.
Certainly, I can speak, and perhaps if Bill Avera or Michelle want to speak, through the rigorous project that we've just completed for the franchise agreement, we certainly received a lot of positive feedback in terms of the transparency of the process, that there was consensus, that we had 10 elected officials come to the joint regional agency meeting. We received a lot of positive feedback. We met with Bill and with Ray and Michelle could not make this meeting regarding the franchise agreement. One of the successes there is there's going to be a net positive in terms of revenue that the new franchise agreement is going to be bringing to their general fund. So there's a lot of positives that we've heard, but I welcome any feedback from yourself or in terms of how you want to move forward.
So we don't have consensus.
Supervisor Munzer, maybe as
just
part of the committee.
Waste.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know, and I believe this agreement for this part is a joint power agreement, which does not require a sitting board as opposed to a joint power agency. But we were meeting, and I actually, with representatives from both cities here, and I asked them, "Do you guys want to form a board to oversee this?" And they emphatically said, "No, you, the county, are doing a good job handling this. We do not need to be involved in it." So to me, that says they're okay with the way this is going forward.
Clears my question.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I add? And just to add further, we are the lead agency, so we're the ones that take the lead and are moving forward with this. So,
Yeah, Supervisor De La Cruz, you
Yeah.
have something to add?
Yes, thank you. John, you're saying that in the amendment number 5, it specifically states there'll be a phasing out period of bringing regular staff members on board.
Yeah, we have a scope of work and a timeline that lays that all out in the contract.
So at the end of the timeline, you're not going to come in with an Amendment 6, are you?
I have no plans to do that, no.
See, I prefer to have the language of the contract a little stronger, that their end date will be after Amendment 5. I just don't want to give an opportunity of then coming back with Amendment 6.
Or 7.
Or 7 or 8. I want to change the language, Mr. Chair, where their cutoff date is at the end of Amendment number 5. That's
Right.
it.
Yeah, the contract does have a termination date in it, so that's already in there. And then I can commit to you that if I do, for whatever reason, feel the need to come and make a recommendation to continue some sort of consulting services for integrated waste, as Supervisor Medina brought up, it'll be an RFP process. It won't be an amendment to the current contract, because it'll be a different strategy and a different plan, so it'll require a different type of contract going forward, and we'll do an RFP for that. And that's just hypothetical, because right now I don't have any plans to do that.
And correct me again. Is it a 1-year extension? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's about a year and a half, right?
Does it expire June of 2019?
June of 2019.
June of 2019.
Plus or minus.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
So
I'd like
a year
to
and 2
add
months.
an amendment to the language.
Why don't we finish the presentation first, and then let's discuss this, and after public comment, we'll
Okay,
come back
perfect.
and make some considerations.
Maybe an amendment is too strong, Mr. Chair. Maybe the board will consider having John submit monthly reports, updates, getting to that end date in terms of staff time, the transition.
Let's reel this back in. Again, I want to finish the presentation, then hear from the public, and then we'll have a discussion.
Will do.
Go ahead with the presentation. Or is that the end of it?
That's the end of the presentation.
Okay, very good.
Although, you
Moving right along already.
You know what I would like to add to my presentation is that
Go ahead.
is that I will be bringing reports to the board on the progress. I would prefer to do that quarterly, though, not monthly, if that's acceptable. Just for interest of staff and
Okay, we'll discuss that after public comment. Thank you, John. Anybody from the public would like to comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. One of the things that I appreciate from this contract and this firm that we're working with on integrated waste is that they bring a level of expertise. I mean, a high level of expertise that we can't generate in-house at this time. I'm encouraged that we hired somebody that is specialized in this, it's a take a lot of the responsibility and day-to-day operations and work ultimately back into our office at a probably a little bit lower cost, which I think is some of the concerns that my colleagues have. Mm-hmm. But with the the need that we have today, it certainly makes sense to move forward with this contract, and I'm certain that the value is there, and sometimes you have amendments just to extend the term of the agreement, and I have reservations about not having that ability to do so given the circumstances. And as far as the reports, maybe monthly is a little too often, Supervisor De La Cruz, but I certainly think quarterly is reasonable.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm okay with the quarterly, mm-hmm. but what I want to see is a chart, a report of those events that you need to get where you become self-sustained. So on your first report, you got to put, 5, 6 things that will lead you to a self-support county. Mm-hmm. And then the next quarter, you put down where are you in terms of completion to reaching those. Because I don't want you to give us a report, we're working on this, we're doing that, Catherine's doing this is going on, and then we don't see progress being made. We just get quarterly reports without progress actually being made. I prefer you have a starting point, the goal to get to that point, and the progress you going to that point, and I will accept a quarterly report like that.
Great. Yeah, Kathleen has already done a great job of putting together a timeline with deliverables, and so we can show demonstrated performance as we go forward.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with my fellow chairman, Chairman Botello. We needed those set skills at this time. I get it. I'm on board, but it's time now. It's time for us now to become self-sustained. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chair. Staff recommend contract amendment number 5.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Oppose?
No.
Hearing, you oppose? One oppose. So we'll move on to item 30.
30.
You're still up.
I'm still here. You can't get rid of me that easy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is it 29?
I know you're hurry. You want to hurry. I like you.
Yeah, it's actually 29.
29.
I stand corrected.
All right,
John?
So actually, now that we've approved the contract, Kevin is here to talk about the next 4 items. This first one is a relatively easy one. It's a COLA increase and payment on for the increased costs associated with management of the landfill. This has been to the ad hoc committee. The ad hoc committee has heard this. They've reviewed the numbers with us, and they're recommending support of this item. So with that, I'll open up for questions. Kevin is here. Again, he's the technical expert, so he can answer any questions that you have.
Okay. Kevin, maybe it might not be a bad idea to kind of go over briefly how the calculations are made. We do this every year with the landfill. It might not, for benefit of the public.
Good morning, Honorable Chair and Supervisors. Kevin McCarthy with CSG. Just a brief overview of the annual compensation process. As the board chair said, it's a prescribed process in the operations agreement. It lays out some indices. Waste Connection submits an application that follows indices and essentially does a calculation, which is included in the staff report. The only wrinkle this year is that the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the indices that were used changed, and so there were new indices used. And so after we worked through that process, they submitted their application, and the recommendation is to approve the COLA adjustment.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, I'll bring it back for further discussion or a motion.
Move for staff recommendation.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. We'll move on to the item 30. Mr. Curtin?
All right. So again, I'd like to have Kevin get up and give the presentation on this. He'll give the presentation on the next couple. He's been taking the lead on this, and he's the technical expert for these.
Good morning again. This is an item like the COLA item that went through the Landfill Ad Hoc Committee, which is comprised of the board chair and board vice chair. The recommendation from the Ad Hoc Committee is to approve one of two scenarios to reduce the tipping fees at the John Smith Road landfill. The operating agreement allows the county to set in-county rates. It allows Waste Connections to set out-of-county rates. This staff report's been reviewed by the county counsel's office and by outside special counsel, and the county believes it's well within its legal rights to take this action. I'll take any questions.
Okay, great. Any questions?
Yeah.
Supervisor Medina?
Yeah, well within its legal rights. First of all, I want to mention thank you very much to Supervisor Munzer and Supervisor Botello for looking at this and decreasing the rates for the county residents. But now my concern is a couple of things. Within legal rights, are we 100% positive that there's no ramifications of a possible litigation? Because what prevents us moving down to zero? If we can set the rates, we should be at zero.
Being part of the subcommittee or ad hoc committee, I think from my perspective as one supervisor, you can't go to zero and operate the landfill, bury it, and collect the gases with no costs. There are costs to doing anything in business, but what has concerned me as a supervisor and as a user of the landfill, I make my share of runs to the dump. I don't always burn my garbage, but it's I can't pass the straight face look to our constituents when out of county garbage is cheaper than in county garbage, and it's been that way for a while. It took a little work to get here, as far as the rationale of making these changes. But I think the landfill operator has a profit margin with the rate that they're bringing that out of county garbage in, and it includes a substantial amount of trucking, and so it's probably a satisfactory margin if we went down to $23 a ton for that packer rate.
So, looking at what you said, I agree. I just wanted to say zero to kind of bring it to a conversation. But based upon 200 tons, that's what we do on a daily basis. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Our county?
Yeah,
in county is about 200?
In county.
So it's the law of numbers. If they're bringing in 800 tons out of county, that's where they're making up the difference is on volume, not on just, our 200 tons, because everything else now becomes a fixed cost and you start leveraging all your costs. So, what I'm still trying to think about is we've been in this contract since 2010. And is this the first time this has came up? Because at one board meeting, didn't we increase the fees? In, I think it was 2015, 16. Did we increase them at all? Do you remember?
I don't.
Anybody?
Was there a COLA maybe at one point? Or
I don't know. I thought they
I think
increased.
we've done COLAs.
Okay, maybe that's what it was.
We do COLAs every year.
So why didn't we think of this earlier? That's all that's an open question. I'm sorry. Was there a covenant that we had to wait 5 years or 6 years before we did an increase? Is it something like that?
Mm-hmm. And be honest with you, as one supervisor, sometimes I don't come up with good ideas right away. And it just takes a little time. It took a little time to get a consulting firm that could support this type of action and making sure that we're moving in the right direction. That was one of the reasons I supported this contract amendment today. And I feel that the rates for in-county users should be pretty much similar to out-of-county users. I'm sorry, I just can't justify that big of a difference. And yes, there is economic scale and volume scale, but let the out-of-county guy pay a little bit more. That's just my feeling about it.
So, Kevin, now with the loss of revenue, I'll call it loss of revenue on Waste Connections, what is that amount in a year?
I'm looking. I got a table here, and this is an estimate based on Waste Connection submits reports, or they give us rates by the categories. And so, if you substitute in the lower rates if the Packer rate dropped to $23 per ton, based on 2017 data, that would be about a $540,000 drop in revenue. If it drops to 34, that's about $266,000 drop. So that's on the Packer rate, which is what Phil Couchet, who's here, what Recology pays for the waste from homes. The public rate, if the public rate dropped to $56 per ton, that would be approximately a $293,000 drop. If it drops to $43, that'd be about a $755,000 drop.
Okay. So they may lose $750,000, which we will save as a county, as a residents. It will be spread through everyone, and our residents will be happy. What have we talked to them about this, or is this the first time they're hearing it also?
During landfill negotiations, they were instructed that the county was contemplating this. They had a response to that in terms of their offer. Their offer had a provision in it that if the county lowered tipping fees, they would reduce the new compensation they were given to the county dollar for dollar. So they were anticipating that the county might do this, and basically they were anticipating a revised contract that would give them, they essentially would be made whole. And then the county CAO gave Paul Nelson from Waste Connections a heads up.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Supervisor Medina. Supervisor De La Cruz?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Have we thought about the long-term impact this will have? Would it change the lifespan that we have at the current landfill? How would it affect the relationship that the curbside services will now have with the landfill? Would that need to all come back and renegotiate, or is that just, that has no bearing on it?
Supervisor De La Cruz, that's a very good question. So the way this works is the disposal rate that Phil Couchet pays at the landfill is a direct pass-through in his contract. And so if the disposal costs dropped, his rates would drop. And so the residential and commercial rates, based on these recommendations, could drop anywhere from 5 to 9%. And so if these reductions were put in place July 1st in what we expect to be the new contract with Recology, they would redo their final rate sheets that you all would be approving. And so it would directly benefit the residential and commercial ratepayers.
Could it potentially change the standings in terms of the rates from RGR Recycling, Green Waste, and Recology?
They're pass-through expenses. We call those pass-through expenses. So they're things like disposal and processing costs. And they were fairly close. It wouldn't materially change the difference between the companies. And so any of them would be passing it through. And none of the companies had profit on that. And so it really isn't. It wouldn't have affected the rankings in any way.
I'm all for lowering the rates to our current residents. There's no doubt about it. I'm for it. And I think Supervisor, our chairman and Supervisor Munzes, I think that's a smart move. I really think so. Have we thought this out completely? Have we figured what is the long-term impacts of it? What relationship are we going to have now? Is this something that we can delay until we do a little bit more research? Because it seems like this is a bold move. I mean, we should have done it, maybe 5 years ago or 3 years ago, or phasing out. I don't have the answers to it. I just wondering. Sometimes we might make quick decisions without really doing a lot of backup. And then the question becomes, at what point is enough information to make a decision which your overburden of information becomes obsolete? So I just thinking out loud, is it better to wait and to gather more information, or let's just do it? Because if you were to do it, I will support it today. There's no doubt about it. But I just cautious without having the landfill operator even agreeing with that. I just some hairs on my back start standing up. That's all.
Supervisor Medina?
There is a couple things. I believe in something called too good to be true. So I look at it and I agree with it. I think you guys did a great job in looking at the rates and decreasing them. And I know the residents will thank you also. But to me, it just, right now, I received this information Thursday night. I didn't have any idea whatsoever what was going on. So I did talk to a lot of people over the weekend. And one of the questions that you may be able to answer is diversion. How will that change our diversion? Because I think we have to be at 60%, is that right? By 2025, is it?
The statewide diversion mandate is 50%. That's on jurisdictions. The state as a whole has a goal of 75%,
Okay.
but that's not been applied to jurisdictions.
Will that change it if the price at the tipping, or if the tipping fees at that level at $20?
I don't think it will, and I think that for two reasons. One is that most of the requirements that the state has put in place are mandates. If we were in Arizona, New Mexico, or places where there were no mandates, then the logic I think you're putting out there is absolutely what would happen. And that's why if you go outside of California, in adjoining states that don't have the same mandates, when landfill rates are low, those states have very low diversion rates. They go hand in hand.
Okay.
Here we have a state mandate on commercial recycling. We have a state mandate on commercial organics. We have the Cal Green Building Code has C&D requirements. So RJR is here. His business, people are paying those disposal charges, and we haven't had enforcement of really the Cal Green codes. And so Robert's company will actually have a lower disposal rate, but there's actually a mandate to do those C&D requirements. So, I think if you take the mandates away, absolutely, you drop these rates, it's going to hurt diversion.
So really the mandates are keeping us where we should be.
That's correct.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for all your work also.
Appreciate that.
Supervisor Rivas?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because that's the question I had. I know when we had reviewed that proposal a few weeks ago now, one of the big issues for me was the diversion rates and the differences between the different companies. And so certainly this would have an impact on our ability to increase those rates, or as far as meeting, the standards that the state has set.
I think for the business that is open market, and so business outside of the franchise, having a lower disposal rate can create a disincentive for diversion. But in the best example that we have locally with RJR or anybody else doing debris box recycling, the requirement is that 65% of construction remodel jobs, those debris boxes out there, you're supposed to divert 65%. And so there may be a short-term impact, but the county is in the process of working with Hollister and San Juan to get enforcement of those requirements. And so those should be what holds up the diversion rate. But again, if we didn't have those requirements, this would hurt diversion.
Thank you.
Supervisor Munson?
Well, my thought on this is when I first took office and dealing with the landfill and the out-of-county garbage that was coming in at that time, I was always told that was a rate stabilization mechanism, that we were accepting out-of-county garbage to keep our rates lower. and that is not true today. It took a little while to realize that, and I think that is why we are taking this action today to bring that back in line. And also, I think it's very timely in the fact that we are doing a new contract, and so the operator will be able to adjust his rates for the curbside pickup and all the pickup with these new rates. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, and I just want to add that I don't think the in-county user should subsidize the out-of-county guy. I think the rates were completely backwards. It should have been the higher rates for the out-of-county users and the lower rates for the in-county. And that's just the reason why I brought this forward. And the subsidized garbage rates are over. It's a go the other way around. So with that, I'll open it up for public comment. Please do.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Board of Supervisors. I'm Robert Rodriguez with RJR Recycling. I know with the lowering the tipping rates, and I know that what we do currently is, it's where we have a processing facility. We're the only processing facility in town that is actually helping with diversion. What worries me about lowering the tipping fees with the landfill is the self-haulers, the ones that aren't mandated. They're not going to want to go to my site. I already am lower than the landfill charging at the gate rate. But if the landfill is going to be lower than my gate rate, which is already lower, people are not going to want to come to my facility. And I can't lower my rates anymore because we are doing more infrastructure to help do more diversion for this county, and that's very concerning to me. It's almost like we're going to be rewarding people to go to landfill and just dispose of it instead of recycling it. And there is a lot of costs, and we don't have a lot of volume in this community to keep my rates lower. And that's just, it's a tough one to have to compete with the landfill when we're trying to meet diversion. And that's the only concerning issue for me by lowering these tipping fees. Just people won't want to recycle, and they'll just keep going to landfill, and we'll just keep burying it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No hurry. Don't trip and fall. Take your time.
Oh, yeah. Walk slowly. Nothing stops me, though, So, hi, Chairman, members of the board, Ann Ross, community activist, I guess you could say. I addressed everything from the economic standpoint, and I appreciate the comments about what long-term impact we have. I guess my question, or at least my comment on the matter is, ad hoc committees aren't always ones that have all the information. I mean, you can look at it and discuss it, but unless you had an economist on there, a financial advisor, long-term planner, and I'm not sure how it was composed. I'm just asking that due diligence is considered, because impact of recycling, impact to a couple of, I don't know how much it's going to lower for the actual resident, but something that's not noticeable, a couple pennies, a couple dollars, may sound like it's great on paper. The politicians have decided to lower our rates. Then you get the credit. But is it really the long-term solution is better for our county? Particularly in that you can't go backwards. Once you do this, then you can't just raise it up again. Then that looks bad for everybody, and it'll be annoying. I'm not sure if they've ever been lowered before. I'm not even sure how it got out of balance that the out-of-town hauling costs less. Probably looking at how that dichotomy occurred in the first place could shed some light on how to address for the future. Thanks. So my recommendation, or asking you, is to table this for further review.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. If not, I'll close the public comment and bring it back to the board for Supervisor Medina.
the lady, Miss Ross, thank you. Kevin, what is the amount that the average resident would save, roughly?
I don't have the customer rates in front of me. I have percentages.
Well, just to say I pay...
If you pay $30
$30
a month.
$30 a month.
If you went from $44.75 to $23, which is option
B,
the county's rate would drop about 9%. So that's
$2.70. So, I just had a thought here. Is $2.70. Is there, and I'm saying table this for one reason, is rather than doing that, why don't we look at the amount they're paying now and the amount that the ad hoc committee came up with, and rather than providing that savings of $2.70, why don't we ask Waste Connections to set up a fund to fix these roads? Because that's most of the concern I have from people are roads. I haven't heard a lot about rates. I hear every now and then that we pay more than out of county, which is what probably prompt you to this. But rather than that, is there a way we can meet in the middle with Waste Connections and put a fund? I'm not sure how we would do this, but put a fund, and let's just say they were going to lose $700,000. I don't know. They put 400, or we meet some type of a percentage, or it can be 100%. And rather than giving that back to the ratepayers, let's start really repairing these roads with that money, because I think that's what we intended to do with the revenues received from Waste Connections. The big elephant in the room of the $5 million or $4.2 million, whatever you want to say, that was meant to help fix our roads. And so to me, this would be a wise decision to look at it that way, rather than going back, like we said, $2.70 to a ratepayer.
Supervisor Medina, I think that's a terrific suggestion. The only problem is that we've had pretty much a resistance for quite some time in negotiating with Waste Connections on several different fronts, and we've already have expressed quite a bit of concern about the out of county importation of waste. It's significant, and it's been frustrating that if you take that 270 and apply it to the out of county waste coming in, we could probably fix some roads, and have some real impact with that. But they don't even want to raise the rates for that out of county product coming in. So, it's hard to justify to the users of the landfill that they got to pay more, and then our roads are affected, as we will see a little bit later on in this agenda. And we really don't have any leverage within our current agreement to ask for that. And they have reservations to volunteer, and acknowledge that there is a problem.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we delay this. We delay this to seek other options.
A second.
I want to know what those other options are first. It's a little vague, Supervisor, as far as what other options?
I don't have a.
I say we either make this decision today or we don't, and then we kick it back to the ad hoc. Other options doesn't mean anything to me. Yeah. We either approve or we don't move forward with this proposal today, and we come back at another time.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we have a motion and a second on the table.
Okay. In discussion, Supervisor Medina.
I agree with you, Robert. Decision needs to be made, but like I said, I received this information on Thursday. I just need more time to really look at the outcome because, once again, I've always been taught when something looks too good to be true, you really need to scratch and sniff, and you need to do a lot more research. And, being it was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday and Monday, that wasn't enough research for me, because I'm worried about what happens if we don't. I don't know if this is true, but I'd have to talk to RJR. Is a diversion that they were talking about? If it does decrease, what happens to us if we don't hit the goals that the state has mandated? Are we fined?
That question.
Yes. Or
I believe the question is the county fined if it doesn't meet the state
yes,
diversion
exactly.
mandates?
If we didn't hit the 50%.
If you don't meet the 50%, there's a $10,000 per day fine.
Okay, so there's $10,000 per day. So all the savings that we gave to our constituents, which is $2.70 approximately, it's going to be more. So I'm more worried about the diversion rate, worried about if there's something else we can do, and that's why I just need more information in order to make a decision. Because even the information you provided in our packet, there wasn't enough to make a decision for me. So that's what I'm looking at, Robert, is just at least bring it back to the next meeting or the meeting after so we can really look at this and figure out what do the residents really want. Do they want $2.70 or do they want better roads, or do we need to do some research on the diversion? And that's my take on it.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I just think that we have to be more clear in the recommendation as far as maybe not moving forward with a proposed recommendation, but coming back with several other options related to what we're trying to accomplish, whether it is to reduce the in-county waste, the tipping fees, or provide other options in lieu of just that that tipping fee, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
And I think it's probably going to require a month or two. It's not going to I don't think we can come back in a couple of weeks.
It just as one person that goes up there, the amount of trucks that come from out of county, it's substantial. It's filling up our landfill. It's the other day I was up there and I was dodging needles off of my shoe because waste, medical waste being dumped up there is from out of county. It wasn't needles from this county for sure, and these guys are getting a big break, and our citizens are subsidizing that. It's wrong, just flat wrong, and I think if nothing else, we should do a rate reduction and then continue to work with Waste Connections and continue to see how we could bring a balance of rates and fill the needs like fixing the roads. I think that, that's work that's to be ongoing. But, I'm all for doing something today, whether it's option A or B, and then continue to work with Waste Connections to hopefully resolve some of these other issues, but it's just not fair to our citizens.
Mr. Chair, I honestly believe that the recommendation on this one from the committee, it's a valid issue. I
agree.
100%, and I think we need to reduce it for our citizens. I'm 100% on it. I just would like just a little breathing room just to analyze it a little bit further, making sure that the public's getting the best benefit from it, short term and long term, and if we vote on it as there's a motion on the table, and it fails, I will support the recommendation from the committee.
Okay, all right. We have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote, please.
What was the motion, Mr. Chair?
The motion was to delay the decision on a rate reduction.
For more information, for other options.
For more information as far as the impact.
Correct. Short term and long term.
June 26th. Right. Bring it back June 26th.
Bring of.
How about July 14th or July? No, how about June 12th? Is it still budget? I want time bound. You know how I am. How about
We're going to give you time down. We're going to give you July.
Okay.
We have a lot going on.
July 24th. July 24th.
Well, the maker of a motion would have to amend
Okay, go
his.
ahead. July
Is
24th.
that a friendly amendment?
that's okay, July 24th.
To July 24th.
And if the maker of the motion is okay by saying, let's not leave any stone unturned. Let's put everything on the agenda
Yes.
as far as
Yes.
options moving forward.
I'm with you.
Let's do our homework. Let's read. Let's understand the consequences of these decisions, so then we're not kicking the can again into October or November.
Absolutely.
All right.
Robert.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. I hope the clerk of the board has that. Okay, good. We'll do a roll call vote.
Supervisor Rivas?
Yes.
Munson?
No.
Botello?
No?
Dela Cruz?
Yes.
Medina?
Yes.
Okay. Motion pass. We'll have it on July 24th? Great,
Yeah,
with
July
a few
24th.
more options and a little bit more detail. We'll move on to, let's see, where are we at now? You know what? Why don't we just take a break
Yeah.
for 7 minutes?
Oh.
Mr. Gerton?
Yeah, we'd like to invite Kevin McCarthy up, CSG. He'll be discussing the cost, the actual change in law. Kevin?
This item is about a change in law request. As with the COLA, there's a provision in the landfill operating files that a change in law request. The recommendation from the landfill ad hoc committee that reviewed this was to reject the change, as the requested amount doesn't fit within the definition of a change in law. The intent of that language is that if there's a change in law today, not 10 years ago or 5 years ago or prior to the... Can you hit the mic? Oh, I'm sorry.
There's a button on the bottom.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
The language in the landfill operating agreement defines a change in law. Most of you are familiar with language. It really relates as there a change in law, today that's within the bounds of the current agreement. And based on the analysis by staff and a review of the item by the landfill ad hoc committee, it was determined that this request for funds, we understand what the changes were, but they occurred prior to the effective date of this agreement, and they should not be approved. I'll take any questions.
Any questions from Supervisor Medina?
Yeah, just contracts are something that I always look at, and we always share that. It's black and white. If it was prior to the contract, then it's a no-brainer for me. Okay. I would agree with the ad hoc committee.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, bring it back to the board for further discussion or action.
Move for staff recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. We'll move on to 31 then.
32
And 32.
Oh, 32, I'm sorry.
We can do 31 again.
I'm just off. I'm going to need a counter.
I believe this is the last landfill-related RMA item. So last year, actually over about the past year, the previous ad hoc committee and the current ad hoc committee have inquired about the landfill disposal capacity figures provided by Waste Connections. There is a provision in the contract in which they do an annual report. Those figures are included in the staff report. So clearly, there's been a pretty significant decline in available disposal capacity. The intent of this staff report and this recommendation is that given the sensitivity over disposal capacity figures and the fact that they are declining, the recommendation is to have an independent party, landfill engineer, do this study, and that we can compare the results of this with numbers that should be made available by Waste Connections by on or about July 1st. And so if you have any questions about that, let me know.
I just have a quick question.
Supervisor De La Cruz first, then I'll come back to Mr. Medina.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The reason why we need this is to get more of an accurate space at the landfill. Is that correct?
As I stated, there is a report filed by Waste Connections each year, and so this is the intent of this action is for the county to do its own independent capacity assessment and be able to compare that to Waste Connections. There may not be any differences. We don't know at this point, but given all the scrutiny and the attention and the concern over declining landfill capacity, the desire of the landfill ad hoc committee was for the county to have its own independent assessment of disposal capacity.
Okay. So in the past, it wasn't necessary to do our own. We relied on.
We've relied on Waste Connections has produced a report, I think, for at least the last 3 years.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Supervisor Medina.
So do they do that themselves, or is it a third party that does it for them?
They contract with a third party.
Oh, they contract with a
Yes.
third party. So to me, $18,000 spending on something that's being done already It just doesn't make sense to me because per the contract, they have to do this every year. So they're doing it already. So what I'm looking at is let's save the $18,000 and move forward.
Okay. Being part of the ad hoc committee, and I got to admit, it was my bright idea for this one, too. All of us up here are aware that there has been a significant change in our landfill capacity the last couple of years with the out-of-county waste coming in. Significant change. And my experience has been that when I hire a consultant, I get the answers that I want. I'm paying you. And guess what? Usually I get the result that I want. Being that this landfill is pretty close to the contractual lifespan where there will be a cease and desist on the out-of-county waste coming in, when it reaches that 15-year threshold, it changes everything. And I just want to make sure that there's a verification with their flyover, our flyover, that they do match. I expect them to match. $18,000 is not a lot of money with what we're dealing with. And it's just, just a verification and for everybody's protection. I don't want to be at 12 years of landfill life and have this wrong. That's why I made this, suggestion, and hopefully get support for it. Supervisor Medina.
And I would agree with you when you look at the numbers. If they were decreasing in a small amount, I would say yes, there's something wrong. Let's go ahead and have a study. But they're decreasing pretty dramatically, so that's not to their benefit. That's not to their benefit at all. So why would they ask, like you said, a consultant will show you their numbers? They would be telling you that they want a higher number than a lower number. That's why I'm looking at this saying we're fine. There is not an issue. So let's just save $18,000 for something that is not needed. It's just giving $18,000 to a consultant rather than they're honoring our contract. We're doing what they told us to do. Have we asked them also that to use Lewis Engineering when they do their next one? Did anyone consider that?
We haven't asked them that. We can.
I mean, that would save us $18,000.
Through the chair, if I could comment, I would just say that we're in a very sensitive period, and so the issue about does somebody have an incentive to make the numbers different? I mean, there's nothing about their reports that have suggested to me, and I've said this to the ad hoc committee, that we have any doubts about the numbers they have provided us. There have been other things that have come up that have made us doubt the capacity. But the reality is, the lower the capacity numbers, the more pressure there is on everybody to take action. And you're very aware of the timelines for a landfill expansion.
Yes.
So again, I think the spirit of the landfill ad hoc committee was this is too important of a period of time to not make sure that we're all working on good, solid numbers. I think that was the spirit of.
Yeah, and that's my question: is if they have to do it anyway, maybe they can use the company you guys are talking about. We save $18,722 by asking them to use Lewis instead of using Lawrence and Associates.
Can we ask if you've already started your work this year for that study?
Our flyover took place in March.
Okay.
Well,
yeah.
so much for that one.
So it normally does occur in March every year, right? Is that correct? Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other comments? Any comments from the public? Okay, we'll bring back to the board. What is the motion on the board?
Move per staff recommendation.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. We'll move on to the last item of the regular agenda.
Mr. Chair, I have been reclusing myself when this project has come up, so I will continue in that vein and recluse myself.
Okay. Thank you, Supervisor Munzer. Good start.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a simple one. At the April 2nd special meeting of the Planning Commission, the Planning Commission voted to approve tentative subdivision map 15-94. That's specific to the Bluffs development. After that action was taken, our office received an appeal, wishing to appeal that action to the Board of Supervisors. We noticed that hearing for today, and between the time that we noticed the hearing and the actual board meeting today, the appellant withdrew their appeal. So there is no appeal to be heard before the board today. But we noticed it, so we had to put it on the agenda.
All right. So there's no action that needs to be taken. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll bring Supervisor Munzer back in and get a report from closed session.
Yeah, he has a little statement I wrote up.
I'll let you introduce the closed session items, and then I'm going to request that we pull 35 for, I have a comment to make on 35.
Number 34, closed session, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to section 54956.9, number of cases 1, authorized by 54956.9 D2 and E1, and closed session, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, subdivision A and D1 of 54956.9, Hollister School District versus County of San Benito, Superior Court of California, County of San Benito, case number CU 17-00085.
Okay, thank you. And as I stated, I'm going to pull 35 for a comment and allow any other supervisors who wish to comment in public as well. But, a few weeks ago, this issue came up between the county and the Hollister School District as far as the collection of impact fees. This is what this litigation is about. And in the spirit of trying to resolve this without getting into the expense of lawyers and litigation and hard feelings, Supervisor Medina and myself and the CEO met with staff from the Hollister School District and a couple of their directors, hoping to set a pathway for a resolution of this particular problem. Unfortunately, there wasn't much of a dialogue on the Hollister School District side. I think they're more interested in the fight than resolving issues, and that is a tremendous cost to the citizens of San Benito County, and more so to our kids that are dependent of an education. And so I'm going to read this, and that's just kind of how I feel about things. And so, we're going to meet in closed session now about the Hollister School District's lawsuit against the county regarding developer fees. It is very disappointing that the Hollister School District has chosen to litigate this in a matter in court rather than trying to resolve it with the county and Hollister School District without getting lawyers involved. Unfortunately, we are now being forced to incur attorney fees in trying to defend this action. We would prefer our funds to be directed to programs and services benefiting the people of San Benito County and the kids in the Hollister School District. We are further disheartened by the fact that Hollister School District doesn't seem that interested in settling this case to the benefit of all parties. We hope they would send a settlement offer to the county that was reasonable instead of a pie in the sky amount that was sent by lawyers, just backs the county into a corner and forces us to litigate this matter. The county agreed to try to, in early settlement talks, based on the alleged loss of around $110,000 set forth by the district's claim, but the district now seeks dramatically to expand the demand base, in part or on a request that the court allow it to have a relief in claim requirements, which would otherwise make such expanded claims time barred. I find these actions to be politically based and not in the interest of the Hollister School District, but by a couple of directors. The joint meeting initially initiated by the county, we didn't get much of a dialogue. This is not good governance. This is just bad politics. The county, in the attempt to find out, the county, in an attempt to help out the Hollister School District, was assisting with the collection of fees. All those years where the Hollister School District didn't have to pay staff to do this work seems to be discounted. But as they say, no good deed goes unpunished. No written contract exists which legally obligated the county to collect fees. The Hollister School District appears to be taking no responsibility for their actions and failing to assure that proper accounting was and audits their accounts that would have occurred. Ultimately, their accounts are their own responsibility. We believe the county is immune to liability on this point. If this case goes to trial, the Hollister School District is going to find out everything that it has done wrong in this matter, as well as the county's faults they would like to point out. As far as I know, they didn't submit the rate increase to the clerk of the board or the county administrative officer, and didn't follow up to make sure that the rates were correctly implemented. This is how the Hollister School District seems to deal with situations. Sits back, doesn't take any responsibility, doesn't get engaged, and then tries to come later claiming something is done incorrectly and reach back far beyond the statute of limitations. We have made considerable efforts in attempting to informally engage the Hollister School District in settlement negotiations, and they have not reciprocated. We have told our lawyers to stand down and allow us to try to resolve this amicably. We are now at the point where we may have to be more aggressive in our litigation strategy and file a motion of judgment on pleadings which would lay out our many defenses and eliminate their unmeritorious claims. The county will continue to strive to resolve this conflict in a reasonable manner. That's my statement. I don't know if anyone else has. Supervisor Medina, you were on the committee with me.
Yeah, through everything, it's disheartening to not be able to communicate with our fellow residents. And I know I'll specifically bring out Dr. Andrew. She has been very her communications have been nothing but great with me. I know she has a board she deals with also. So it just amazes me we would go into a court rather than through just sitting down and negotiating between ourselves. So it's disheartening.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone from the public?
Chair, board members, Ann Ross, community activists. As a county citizen and parent of children have been through the school district, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your strong statement, Chair, to address the underlying politics behind this matter. When special districts can't work with the Board of Supervisors in a political election year, it's clear to the citizens more than they think, more than anyone realizes, I hope, that the rest of us who are sitting behind the scenes know what's going on, whether it's closed session or otherwise. And it's disturbing to have these infighting situations that cost taxpayers money. So I'm not really anybody, but I would like to say that you have my full support in hoping that this gets resolved with the position that you've taken, that it's disheartening. And, I have a chatter amongst the community doesn't escape me. So I hope that that your statement makes it through the newspaper, makes it through everything, and that this is put to bed, put to rest. So it's disgusting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll adjourn to closed session. Thank you very much.